Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas Reid from Reid Corporate, and on behalf of Chalice Mining Limited, I'm delighted to welcome you to this special investor webinar for the demerger and IPO of Chalice's Australian gold assets and to introduce you to Falcon Metals Limited. Thanks very much to everyone for joining us today at relatively short notice. Well, we've all become familiar over the past 18 months with the stellar success of Chalice, which has been one of the best performing stocks on the ASX following its world-class Julimar nickel-copper PGE discovery near Perth in Western Australia. With a maiden resource estimate for the Gonville deposit at Julimar now looming, Chalice is also now proceeding with the planned spin-out and IPO of Falcon Metals, which yesterday lodged a prospectus for a raising of between $15 and $30 million. Chalice shareholders will vote on the planned demerger at an EGM on the 3rd of December, as part of which they will be entitled to receive one share in Falcon for each approximately 3 existing shares held in Chalice. The format for today's webinar will be as follows. I will shortly welcome Chalice's Managing Director and CEO, Alex Dorsch, to run through the rationale for the demerger and, importantly, the process and timeline. Joining Alex in Perth is Chris McKinnon, Chalice's Business Development and Legal Manager, who's also available to answer any questions. We will pause to deal with questions on the demerger process, and I'd ask everyone to please direct any process-related questions to us at this time using the Q&A tab on your webinar browser. I will then introduce 2 of the key members of Falcon Metals' highly decorated management team, Chairman Dr. Mark Bennett and Managing Director and CEO Tim Markwell, both of whom join us from Victoria. Mark and Tim will then give us an overview of the exciting opportunity with Falcon, which is set to become a new high-profile ASX-listed gold exploration specialist in Victoria with an outstanding asset base in the world-class Bendigo region. Once Mark and Tim have closed out their presentation, we'll open the floor to general questions. Once again, just a reminder to everyone to please use the Q&A tab on your webinar browser to ask a question. We'll aim to get the whole session completed within around 40 to 45 minutes. So to get things moving, it's now my great pleasure to welcome Chalice Mining's MD and CEO from Perth, Alex Dorsch, to the webinar for the first part of the presentation. Alex, good morning to you in Perth. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks, Nick, and thanks to everyone for joining this webinar this morning. It gives me great pleasure to formally introduce Falcon Metals, our spin-off, as Nick said, of our Australian gold assets. First and foremost, some important notices and disclaimers are available here. I don't expect you to read these at this time, but they are available in full in the prospectus, which was lodged on the ASX yesterday and lodged on our website as well. So I encourage you to take a look at these. So Falcon Metals, as Nick said, will be a new high-profile gold exploration specialist in Victoria. So we've been very fortunate to attract a highly decorated specialist team to the company. And really it's a team with a history of company making discoveries. So some pretty big names there listed on that page: Julimar, Nova Bollinger, Thunderbox, Waterloo. These are the types of discoveries that really set companies up, and really that's what makes us particularly excited to bring this team together to really tackle this extremely exciting portfolio of assets in Falcon. The key asset will be our 5,000 square kilometre holding in the Bendigo zone of Victoria. Chalice shareholders will recall that before the Julimar discovery, this was very much the jewel in our crown. We remain very excited by this part of the world, and really it's first and foremost because that region hosts one of the highest grade and most profitable gold mines anywhere in the world, the Fosterville gold mine. So that really sort of demonstrates the prize potential here with this portfolio. We'll also be in a unique position having a strong starting cash position. As Nick said, we're looking to raise between $15 and $30 million. That's really a requirement to set ourselves up here for success. So to talk about process, first of all, the demerger, as Nick said, it's a 1-for-3 So for every one new Falcon Metals share, for every 3 Chalice Mining shares you currently hold, and that's going to be via an in-specie distribution. And then concurrently to that, there will be an IPO, and the IPO will be initially in the form of a pro rata entitlement issue, where Chalice shareholders have the right to subscribe for 1 additional Falcon Metals share for every 6 Chalice Mining shares held. And then subject to the take-up of that entitlement issue, there's the potential for additional issues through a shortfall offer. So the demerger is going to result in 2 separate ASX-listed companies. Chalice really has its eyes on the nickel copper PGE portfolio it has amassed in WA, whereas Falcon will be very much focused on new tier 1 gold discoveries in Victoria as well as WA. So each company will have very much a separate management team. Chalice shareholders will have an opportunity to vote on this on the 3rd of December at our EGM. And as Chalice directors, we unanimously recommend that Chalice shareholders obviously vote in favour of that resolution. So it's a 1 for 3, as I mentioned, and then concurrent to that, we're raising between $15 and $30 million. And then we will have a situation on the right-hand side where Falcon and Chalice are 2 distinct entities. So Chalice is not retaining any interest in Falcon Metals. And the portfolio that Falcon will be holding is centred around the Pyramid Hill Gold Project in Victoria, but also holds Viking and Mount Jackson, which I'll let our new Managing Director and CEO talk about in detail. So why are we doing this? We think this is a logical separation. The nickel copper PGE suite is quite a distinct set of commodities to gold. They have different audiences, different investment appeal. So now we will have a situation where the shareholders will get exposure to those different commodity groups, but in 2 distinct entities. So that with independent board and management, that allows us to respectively prioritise resources, and it allows the capital markets also to determine what is the appropriate capital allocation between the projects. So Chalice shareholders will remain exposed to the growth of that portfolio in a new standalone entity. We do think it has the potential to unlock material value. I guess given that Pyramid Hill is a very high-profile project, it has somewhat unfairly been dealt second position in Chalice's portfolio for some time, just because of the high-profile nature of our Julimar project. So that really now puts the Pyramid Hill back in the fray for Falcon. And it enables greater flexibility to really, determine the optimal capital structure for each company. I guess Chalice now looking at entry into the development phase with Julimar. That's a quite distinct, set of circumstances compared to early stage exploration that Falcon will be doing. So this is the IPO details. We're raising between $15 and $30 million. We think that is a very strong starting position and very important to start off with enough runway to really be able to hit the ground running on these assets. So the offer is at 50 cents per Falcon share. So we're issuing between 30 and 60 million new shares as part of the IPO. And there will be 117 million shares distributed under the in-specie distribution. So that will result in a market capitalisation of Falcon between $73 and $88 million. And as it shows you there at the bottom row there, the implied asset valuation or the enterprise valuation we've attributed to the Falcon is approximately $58 million, which we think is competitive and appropriate given our peers in the Victorian goldfields. On the right-hand side, you can see the use of funds. We could speak about this in a little bit more detail, but you can see the majority of funds going towards exploration and the majority of that expenditure going towards Victoria at Pyramid Hill. So that takes us through to that total of between $15 and $30 million. So an aggressive program of exploration for these projects. So the process from here, effectively the process commenced officially yesterday with the lodgement of our prospectus, and basically the key dates there to bring to shareholders' attention is the first record date on the 9th of November next week. So that is the record date at which time Chalice shareholders on that date will be given the entitlement to participate in that priority offer. The offer period will be open essentially for the month of November, and then we will hold our EGM, as I said, on the 3rd of December for Chalice shareholders to vote. And then the next relevant record date is the 9th of December. And so those Chalice shareholders who hold shares on the 9th of December will be distributed those 1-for-3 in-specie shares. And we're looking to wrap all this up by Christmas, so commencement of trading on the ASX at this stage on the 22nd of December. Worth noting as well that Bell Potter Securities are our lead manager to the IPO. So Nick, maybe I'll pause there just in case there's some questions from shareholders on process, and then we can move on to the next section.
Thanks very much, Alex. Yes, we certainly do. We have a number of questions that came in via email, so we'll deal with those first. But just a reminder to everyone listening, if you do have a question about the process, the timeline, the mechanism, etc., and you're listening now, please use your Q&A tab and fire those into me so I can put them to Alex and Chris over in Perth there. Alex, the first question which came in yesterday was, can you explain what happens to non-eligible overseas Chalice shareholders? Will they receive cash instead of Falcon Metal shares?
Yeah, look, that's correct. So ineligible foreign shareholders, that is shareholders who hold shares in Chalice outside of Australia and New Zealand. So if your shareholding certificate shows an address outside of Australia and New Zealand, unfortunately you will be ineligible to participate in the demerger, but you will get the cash equivalent to your in-specie distribution. That will be distributed to you following completion of the demerger. So if you, to reiterate there, that only applies for shareholders who have their holding in an address that is not Australia and New Zealand based.
Thanks very much. Just a couple of, I guess, fundamental sort of process questions that came in yesterday. A number of shareholders have asked, do they still have time to purchase Chalice shares to participate? Can you please just confirm the record date?
Yes, that's absolutely right. So if you want to participate in the IPO, the record date is the 9th of November. So that is early next week. If you would like to take part in that entitlement issue of 1-for-6, that entitlement issue, you are not capped at 1-for-6. You can apply for additional shares over and above your entitlement. So that's the first relevant record date next week. The second relevant record date is on the 9th of December, and that one is the 1-for-3 in-specie distribution. So you have approximately a month to before that record date, and that's the one where you need to be a Chalice shareholder on that day to receive the 1 Falcon shares for every 3 Chalice held.
Okay, fantastic. Got a few questions coming in at the moment. Sanjay Patel has asked, is the IPO underwritten to any level?
No, we haven't opted to underwrite the IPO. We're confident, I guess, given the strong support of Chalice shareholders and given the pricing that we've opted for with the demerger, we think it's a compelling opportunity that Chalice shareholders will be very supportive of. Should there be shortfall, obviously, as I mentioned, we do have the possibility to go to the wider general public and allocate additional funds or any surplus capacity to the general public. So in short, no, we haven't opted to underwrite.
Thanks very much. Just in respect to the IPO itself, lots of shareholders asked, will there be a scale back under the priority offer? And can shareholders apply for the shortfall offer as well?
So in theory, if everyone takes up their entitlement of approximately 1-for-6, then there will not be any scale back of that offer, because that has been calibrated effectively to raise maximum subscription amount of 30 million. But if there is shareholders that don't participate in the entitlement offer and other shareholders want to participate above their entitlement, then those shareholders will take priority in that shortfall as well. So at every stage, existing Chalice shareholders are prioritised. If you, I guess we can't predict exactly what every shareholder will do, but obviously, every shareholder will get an equal opportunity according to their current holding in Chalice.
Thanks very much. I've got a question here online from Tom Daw. What about investors who hold Chalice shares via super platforms such as Netwealth Super? Will Falcon shares be available?
That's a good question, Tom. We will have to take that one on notice and get an answer to you on that one. We don't see a reason why you shouldn't be able to get to participate. It'll just be basically going through that super platform in order to ensure you get access to the distribution as well as the offer. So let us come back to you on that one.
Thanks, Alex. Just a couple more process questions before we move on. Perhaps just to sort of wrap up on the IPO, 15 to 35 million is a reasonably large IPO. Can you offer some comments on the thinking behind the size of the raising, and also any comments on the valuation that you've placed on the assets?
Yeah, sure. So we think 15 to 30 million is an appropriate starting point for what is going to be a very aggressive, very large exploration program that we're going to launch with Falcon. So it's important to raise sufficient capital to give the company the strength and that strength in starting position. We don't want the company to be beholden to short-term fluctuations in share price. And so that's why we've priced the offer competitively, and we've gone for an appropriate amount of funding to be able to do what we want to do in terms of unlocking the value on these projects. In terms of the enterprise value, the valuation of the assets, we've calibrated that according to, as I said, Victorian peers for the most part. We think that is an appropriate valuation that we've applied there of approximately $58 million. For those Chalice shareholders who were on the register sort of 2 years ago prior to the Julimar discovery, our approximate enterprise value at that time equated to a similar number. It was in the order of 50 to 60 million. So that's another I guess, piece of information or evidence that we've used there to ensure that that valuation is calibrated.
Fantastic. Couple more that have just come in. One from Robert Bertolini. What is the X date, as the record date is normally later than the date which allows you to buy come the priority offer?
Yeah, so effectively there, the record date, you must be on the register at the date of those two record dates. So yes, so that there is effectively an onus there to buy with sufficient time to ensure that your holding is captured on the register.
Fantastic. And maybe just to wrap up on process, Alex, is there what's the best source of information for shareholders who would like to, or have any inquiries or questions about the process? Is there a phone line that people can call?
Yes, we'd like to direct people first and foremost to our website. So there is a specific page relating to the demerger on the Chalice website. That's been posted on the ASX, as well as if you navigate to chalicemining.com, you will see the full details of the demerger contained there. If you don't have access to the web, there is a phone line you can ring as well with questions. That number is 1300 396 564. And we'd encourage you to obviously go to the website and look at that look at that information first.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex. Well, we might move on with the second half of the presentation, and if we haven't got to your online question, we'll deal with those at the end, so bear with us. We'll now bring our two Victorian participants in, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Mark Bennett, the Non-Executive Chairman of Falcon, and Tim Markwell, the Managing Director and CEO. I won't read through the CVs there because Mark's going to give us a bit of an intro as to what attracted him to this opportunity. Mark's one of the most recognised figures in the Australian mining and exploration industry, and it's a great pleasure to have him and Tim on the webinar. So, Mark, good afternoon to you over in Victoria there. Thanks for joining us, and if I could ask you to please take us through this next leg of the webinar.
Sure, thanks, Nick. Will do. Yeah, the slide you have up there on the moment, it shows you the sort of the board and Andrea as the CFO and company secretary. And obviously Alex needs no introduction. He's been at the helm of Chalice all the way through the discovery process of Julimar and the incredible growth spurt that's happened to it since then. And Alex will be on the board as a non-exec director. Tim, who is our managing director and CEO, he's a very experienced geologist. He's worked with Anaconda and BHP. He's also been on the other side. He's been an analyst with a brokerage, and for over a decade now, he's been an investment manager with African Lion, part of the Lion Selection Group. So Tim has a very well-rounded experience, which we think positions him perfectly to be the MD of this new venture. Plus, he's also been on several boards as well, as you can see in the description. And then there's myself. I'm really excited about chairing Falcon. The reason I am is a whole range of factors. I think it's a pretty unique opportunity. The ground position that Falcon has is one of the largest ground positions in Victoria, and it has seen a little bit of exploration, but not a lot. Much has been very sparse or shallow or ineffective or looking for other commodities. So from the point of view of finding another Fosterville or Bendigo or whatever, this ground is pretty well unexplored. And we know that the geology goes underneath our ground, so it's highly prospective, and it's not far from the world famous Fosterville gold mine, which for a long time was not a great performer until the guys discovered the Swan Zone, and suddenly it turned Victoria on its head. Victoria has now been re-recognised as one of the great gold provinces in the world, and we're well positioned in it. So that's great, but we're not starting from scratch with a blank canvas. We've got a running start because of the great work that Chalice did prior to getting distracted by Julimar, in that there's a lot of legwork being done. There's a number of defined prospects with some good hits that Tim will walk you through. So we can get in there and hit the ground running and be in action instantly. Now, it's a big area, and these deposits don't just drop out of the trees. They have to be sought. So you need a fair bit of cash to do that, and that is why we're intending to raise between $15 and $30 million to allow us the firepower and the focus to do so without chasing our tail in a market sense. And that's really important for this new IPO. So all of those reasons, I think, make this a pretty unique opportunity. And I was fortunate in that I'm now living in Melbourne, and I found myself in the perfect spot to be involved. And finally, I think, it's one thing having good projects, but you have to be able to execute. And in a place like Victoria, with a lot of other stakeholders, you need to be able to get on with those people, work with the communities, and be able to access ground as well. And our new exploration manager we've appointed, Doug Windsor, has recently been IGO's exploration manager for the northern half of Western Australia. So he's very experienced, but importantly, he's worked in Victoria before on Victorian gold. And the key, I think, is Doug is a Bendigo boy, so he knows a lot of the local community and is perfectly placed to be the one turning our vision into reality. So Tim's going to be steering it, and I'm going to hand over to Tim now to walk you through all of the projects, both in Victoria but also in WA.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thanks for that introduction. So yeah, I'll be talking about the Falcon portfolio, but before I do, I'd just like to reiterate why I decided to join Falcon, and I think I share most of the views of Mark there. It's very rare to get a project, a company with that size of ground holding in Victoria, which is really one of the hottest gold regions in the world right now. It's a very strategic ground holding, and it's very, very valuable in itself. So that was obviously very enticing. Clearly, the opportunity to work with both Mark and Alex was one, something I couldn't really turn down, and having that strong balance sheet to really give this a good go is, I think, quite important. So, for all of those reasons, I've seen a lot of projects on the fund side. A lot of IPOs have come through the door, and this is one that really caught my attention. So when I was offered the opportunity to be involved in it, I really couldn't find a reason not to. It just seemed too good to turn down. So that's exactly why I'm here. So moving on to the projects, clearly the flagship asset is the Pyramid Hill Gold Project in Victoria. As we said, it's a large asset. It's 5,000 square kilometres to the northwest and northeast of the Fosterville Gold Mine, which is now getting quite famous. This is a fabulous discovery. We own all the permits 100%. They're underexplored. It's quite remarkable that projects in this location haven't had anything really done to them until Chalice picked them up, but that's really the way it was. And as Mark said, Chalice has done a great job progressing these assets. So we're hitting the ground running, and we've got several key prospects to start exploration on come January. Rounding out the portfolio, we also have 2 Western Australian assets. So if you're going to have other assets, WA is a great place, and it's great to have that diversity of the portfolio, so we can look at other places as well. And I'll talk about those a bit more at the end. So moving on to Pyramid Hill, this is like a very simple photograph. This is a drill rig and its support truck out on a wheat field. What's important about this is our project area. It's flat, it's open country, very wide broadacre farms. It's not intensive farming at all. And it's very easy access during the field seasons to get in and out. There's not very much clearing at all. And it's very important to have good relations with the farmers and the landowners. Unfortunately, Chalice has done a great job with their land access team in developing these relationships. And we've got access to all of the farms that we need to access in this next drilled field season to do the work. So it's a very nice place to explore in terms of access and ease. Now, moving on to the opportunity of Pyramid Hill. So really, this slide's a great one to just set the scene of why we're so excited about it. There's a map of Victoria there with the 3 gold regions. You've got the Stawell Zone on the left. You've got Bendigo in the middle and Melbourne on the right. Most of our permits are in the Bendigo Zone. It's been a very prolific gold field. More than 60 million ounces has been produced since the 1850s in that outcropping southern part. At an average grade of 15 grams, which is obviously a very high grade for gold mines. More than 90% of these mines have had a recovered grade of more than 8.5. So these are very profitable mines when you find them. So that's on the southern part, the lighter coloured. As you go north into the darker colour, that's where it goes under the Murray Basin sediment. So there's between 50, 80, 100 metres of cover there. And because of that, it just really hasn't been looked at. The Victorian government did some work. They've done a study on what they think could be under that cover, and their mid case is 32 million ounces in the Bendigo Zone in the northern part. So that is a very tantalising target. 32 million ounces is a lot of gold, and it's just a matter of finding it. And the Chalice ground really does cover a big part of that area. Now, explaining that a bit more clearly, this is an oblique section that just shows the geology in a pictorial sense. So on the right-hand side in the blue-grey colour, we have the outcropping Castlemaine group geology. There you can see the Bendigo deposit, 22 million ounces, very famous. The Fosterville gold mine there with more than 8 million ounces and growing. This was an ugly duckling a few years ago, and then they discovered the Swan Zone, and so it's obviously turned into a swan. And 2.7 million ounces at 32 grams has made it one of the most profitable gold mines anywhere in the world. And it really did put Victoria back on the map where it belongs. And there's also the Ballarat and Castlemaine goldfields down on the left there with 20 million ounces combined. So you can see this wonderful pedigree. You've got millions and millions of ounces in that outcropping geology. And then where it goes under the cover, under that Murray Basin sediment, there's been very little effective exploration at all. I mean, Catalyst have done some work and they've got a target at Four Eagles and Tandara, but really there's been very little done outside of that. And Chalice was able to pick up some ground and quite a lot of ground and do some very good work. And they've already developed up to four prospects for drilling. So these are quite good targets. So we really do think that this area is primed for the next wave of discovery in northern Bendigo. Now, zooming in more on the actual permits that Falcon holds. So the dark blue zones are the Falcon permits. You can see it's a dominant position, I think, in the region. It's one of the largest in the Bendigo zone. The Fosterville discovery really did turn the place on its head. You just cannot get ground here anymore. It's very highly prized. Any offerings up for grabs get snapped up, and you just can't peg ground. It's very highly sought. So things have changed a lot. Now, when Chalice first pegged this, it was very early on. These weren't third or fourth or leftovers. These were the things that Chalice really wanted and hunted. So these were first choice permits. And to get such a large ground position in now what is in a hotly contested area, it shows wonderful foresight from Chalice to do what they did. I mean, prior to Chalice, most of this ground was essentially undrilled. A vast majority of it was either not gold focused or it was just ineffective exploration. So this is drilling that really didn't get through the Murray Basin sediment cover. So Chalice was able to go from first principles, start regional scale exploration, surface sampling, air core drilling, and on the more shallow areas, and progress them to where they are today. So zooming in on the actual prospects themselves, so we have 4 key prospects to start work on straight away. The most advanced is the Carry zone up to the north. There's a 4 kilometre long anomaly. There's diamond drill hits up to 32 grams, which are very nice. 50 to 80 metres of cover, so it's very accessible by air core drilling and obviously diamond drilling. And it's in the right part of the world. It's only 20 kilometres from the Four Eagles discovery. So this is our most advanced. Ironbark is one that's really shot up the leaderboard. This is diorite hosted, and I'll talk about this a bit more in a minute. But this is a very exciting prospect and one that we're itching to get started on. And the other 2, Banksia and Wandua, are the earlier stage projects. So these ones they've only really had reconnaissance air core drilling done. They're 3 to 5 kilometre wide space lines, which is quite far in terms of quite a big distance between. But even though they're quite far apart, we're still getting nice hits, as you can see there on the screen. So this is work to be done. We've got to do infill air core drilling, and the idea would be to get these up to where Carry and Ironbark are today. I think the view is that Banksia and Wandua are really they appear to be what Carry looked like in the early stages when Chalice first started a few years ago. Now, moving on to Carry itself in a bit more detail. There's the footprint of Carry on the right there. You can see it's about a 4 kilometre long air core gold trend. Now, what's important about that is a 4 kilometre anomaly is fairly similar in a way in what the footprint would be for Fosterville. So what we're really looking for is big, large anomalies that have the same sort of properties that occur that a Fosterville will have, which is coincident gold, arsenic, and antimony. And then really, once you do that, you send in the air core rigs and you start zoning in on where the high grade gold is. Chalice has got to the point where they've started diamond drilling. They've done 2 seasons of it. We're starting to get some very good results. You'll see there that there's some drill lines on the right. They're 1 kilometre space drill lines, which is still very wide spacing for diamond drilling. And to get results, of the magnitude of 5 metres at 14, including 2 metres at over 30 grams, is a very promising sign. And these are priority targets to do infill diamond drilling and in and around those high-grade hits and in between those drill sections to try to vector in on the high-grade mineralisation. And moving on to Ironbark, as I said before, this one is one that's really shot up the leaderboard. It is diorite associated, and so it is a little bit different to Carry, which is probably a good thing. What's interesting about diorite hosted is there are some quite good analogies in the Victorian goldfields with the Cohen's Reef deposit, 1.5 million ounces at 32 grams. So that's a very handy target for us. Initially, we did the same thing we did at Carry, regional scale exploration, had some anomalies. We went in with the air core rigs, kept getting good results. We did a couple of sighting holes with the diamond rig just to look at the geology, just to see what the diorite looked like. And then last season we did some air core drilling around Ironbark East, and that turned out some very interesting results indeed. We got 13 metres at over 1.5 grams, and that's ended in mineralisation, so still going by the time the drill rig hit refusal, and another hole of 9 metres at nearly a gram off to the west. And if you look around those two holes, you'll see that there's very little drilling around it. This was a reconnaissance line, so there's a lot of space here for there to be an ore body, and we'll be infill drilling this with an air core rig as soon as we can. And this is a very exciting target for us, and certainly one the geologists are very interested in. So going on to our work program for 2022, we'll be building on Chalice's strategy of identifying the big Fosterville-like targets. So the Chalice exploration strategy is working and working well. So we're certainly going to be continuing with their good work. I mean, really, it's screening the areas under thin cover with surface geochemistry and air core drilling, finding out where the anomalies are, moving in, doing some more infill air core, really understanding the projects. And then once we get, have more confidence, we send in the diamond rigs to try to vector into the high-grade mineralisation. So our program will be starting in January. We'll be infill diamond drilling around Carry, around those high-grade hits. We'll be doing extensive air core around Ironbark East and other parts of Ironbark, and we'll also be doing quite extensive air core programs at Banksia and Wandoo to develop the next pipeline of projects for diamond drilling. When we do have a large tenement holding, we will be continuing reconnaissance work across the areas that haven't been looked at yet, with surface geochemistry and air core. And this is to develop a pipeline of projects for subsequent field seasons. Now, we've also got nearly 1,800 square kilometres of permits that we expect to be granted in 2022. So again, this will provide more properties for us to start that reconnaissance exploration. This is a large project area, and the idea is to keep generating targets and keep things moving. So moving on to Western Australia. Before I move on, this is a good photo because that gentleman in the middle just gives a reminder. The Chalice exploration team is a truly first-class team, and we've been very fortunate at Falcon that the projects that we inherit are the ones that are handpicked by the Chalice team. That's Kevin Frost. He's obviously involved with the Julimar discovery in Western Australia, and also, previously in his career, he was involved in the spotted coal discovery by Western Areas, and his colleague Bruce Kendall, who's also at Chalice and was also involved in Julimar, he was credited with the Tropicana gold discovery in the Albany-Fraser province. So we're very fortunate at Falcon to have this pedigree of geologists that have helped develop the portfolio. So moving on to the first WA asset. So this is Viking, and interesting that Bruce was involved in the Tropicana discovery in the Albany-Fraser belt. This is where Viking's project is located. It's just near Norseman in the Albany-Fraser. This is an earn-in, so we're earning up to 70% by spending money on the exploration. And this is a very interesting project. So it's got 4 prospects. These were discovered by Anglo Gold, and all of these drill hits you see on the screen here are in the oxide. So they've gone in there with the air core and got these results, and then it's been sort of left alone. So we've identified this as a great target, and we're going to send in the RC rigs in 2022, and this is why. This is the Viking. This is the Beaker 2 prospect of Viking, and you'll see there a cross section and all those mineralized zones you're seeing in the creamy beige area, they're all in oxide, and there's some very nice hits there. 5 meters at 44, 4 at 15. These are quite good hits. But then if you look deeper down, there's no drilling in the bedrock. So these have never been followed up at depth. And really, this is a very simple walk-up drill proposition. You just go in there with an RC rig and just see what's underneath. So I can see why Chalice picked it up, and I think we're very fortunate that at Falcon to have this one in the portfolio. And just the last project I'll talk about today is the Mount Jackson project. This one's really quite interesting because it's of what it could be. It's really just a slither of greenstone belt, and when I say slither, it's 5 kilometres long. This has never been drilled or explored before Chalice picking it up, and it's very rare to have a piece of greenstone belt in WA, let alone near the Southern Cross region, that's never been looked at before. So, I mean, Southern Cross has great pedigree. It's got the Marvel Lock ore body, 1.5 million ounces. It's got the Yilgarn Star ore body. I mean, I did my honours project in Southern Cross, so I know it quite well. This is a great place for exploration, and it's never been looked at. So Chalice have picked this up. They've done reconnaissance soil sampling. They've got coincident gold, arsenic, and antimony soils across the greenstone belt. And this will be a great target just for air core drilling. This has never been looked at before. It's one of those wonderful things to have in the portfolio, and because you never know what these could be. It could be quite exciting. So that's it. That's all the projects that Falcon will be working. So we've got a lot of work to do next year. The investment highlights. A lot's been said about the team. Look, I'm very excited to be working with Mark and Alex and the new exploration manager, Doug Windsor. There's a great track record of discovery and success in the team, and that's really what helps make a company. We've got one of the largest ground holdings in the Victorian Bendigo region, which is a tremendous asset. Look, it couldn't be a hotter place to have gold assets right now. And also we've got a strong balance sheet, and that's really going to help, take a patient approach and aggressive approach to discovering the next ore body in Victoria. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Tim, and thank you, Mark. We do have time to do 4 or 5 questions, so we'll just bring the whole team back. Alex, I might just start with this first question with you, and then perhaps if you'd make a comment first and then pass it on if you like. Dale Streeton has said, by his calculations, the 4 main institutional holders of Chalice will be issued somewhere between 30 and 36% of Falcon. Given the trading activity in Chalice over the last few months, do you have any thoughts on the proposed significant institutional presence on the new register?
Yeah, look, we'll be communicating closely with those institutional holders, and look, we know that their support has been very, very good in Chalice to date. So that we'll be, obviously conveying the value proposition of holding and taking up their entitlement in Falcon. Being an ASX 200 company, that Chalice does have, shareholders that are in the larger category. So there's likely to be some holders that won't take up their entitlement, but that effectively means that there's more to go around to other Chalice shareholders. So we'll be doing some work with those relevant holders to make sure this is well supported and obviously well supported in the IPO and following the IPO.
Great. Couple of email questions that we received earlier. Tim, perhaps one for you. Can you give us a bit more specifics on the timeline for drilling activity once you're listed and up and running?
Yeah, sure. So the plan at this stage is to have 2 diamond drill rigs working at Carry in January. So as soon as we can really get things moving again after New Year. So I think at this stage it'll be perhaps the first or second week of January that we'll get things underway. Then we'll also be looking at getting the air core drilling starting probably a little bit later in January. I think there were some questions about when we could get an air core rig just because of the situations with COVID and so on and crossing borders, but we've been very lucky that that the previous aircore rig that we've used is going to be available in January, and so it looks like we'll be starting the aircore drilling around Ironbark probably a little bit later in January. So we should have 3 rigs going, 2 diamond and 1 aircore in January. We'll also be doing some soil sampling, some other sort of more regional work as well at the same time.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Just a reminder to everyone listening online, if you do want to send a question in before we wrap up, just use the Q&A tab, fire it in, and I'll put it to the guys. Mark, question from Barry Fitzgerald. He has asked if you would be able to offer a comment on the recent Fosterville block release in which S2 Resources, which you're executive chairman of, was successful. What he's asking here, I think, is do you see scope for Falcon and S2 to potentially work together down the track in Victoria, or do you see them as running independent campaigns?
Thanks, Nicholas. Yeah, Barry, obviously, they're entirely independent, unrelated entities. I don't think there is a great deal of conflict. The process for S2 to actually get the ground at Fosterville will take anything from 6 to 12 months before S2 hits the ground there, hopefully sooner rather than later. And there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and then. We're at 2 separate companies in the same state. We're not neighbours, but there may be scope to actually do stuff that's mutually beneficial. What S2 has done in Finland, for example, is have a couple of agreements in place with other companies whereby we do talk to one another. It's a situation here, like in Finland, where all the ground's taken, so you're not actually competing for ground as such. So there's nothing to lose. You can just potentially mutually benefit the shareholders of both companies by that, but there is no sort of intent or design at this point in time.
Great. Thanks very much, Mark. A question that came in via email from a shareholder, from a gentleman. He asked yesterday, he said that given that Falcon is establishing a separate management team with an independent focus and strategic agenda, do you anticipate, this is a question for perhaps Tim and Mark, do you anticipate the new company replicating existing key roles, business processes and tech systems from Chalice, or will you take the opportunity to rethink legacy and refresh?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think Chalice has done a great job with everything they've done, I think, and they're a company to be admired. So I think it would make sense for Falcon to take the best of their processes and the things that they've done and replicate them to a point. But I think Chalice is also a lot bigger than Falcon will be when it lists. So I think there'll be a scale issue. Like Falcon will have to do things at a earlier stage exploration level. So we'll only obviously do things that suit the scale of activity that Falcon will be doing. So we'll certainly be looking to replicate some of it, but only ones that make sense for Falcon.
Thanks very much, Tim. Look, perhaps just one final one. We've had a couple of questions from shareholders asking about your outlook for gold. Given most of your projects are gold projects, all your projects are gold projects, can you give us a sort of a broad view on your sense of where the gold space is going, and why it's still a good thing to be exploring for gold in Australia?
Well, look, I think gold is a fantastic commodity to be in. I think with all the uncertainty in the world, with the way inflation and other dynamics are going at a macro level, I think gold is always a great thing to be involved with. So my previous investment experience, the motto was always be at least 50% gold, and always be sort of overweight gold with 2 other things. So I've got, I'm very happy to be involved with a company that's all of its 3 primary projects are gold.
Yeah, I would concur with that, Nicholas. The macro picture The bubble doesn't seem to be bursting just yet, but the way things are going with inflation and money printing, you would think it has to sooner or later. Crypto isn't really a viable alternative, in my view. Gold is gold. Some people have quoted gold as being old, but it's not. It's everlasting.
Maybe just to add to that as well, I think the unique part about Victoria as well is just the grade of the deposits as well. So, if we can find something that approaches the average grade of the previous mines and the current mines in Victoria, that gives you a hell of a lot of robustness in your project economics. And so that's not something that the more marginal fields and the lower grade deposits get elsewhere in the world. So I think Victoria really is primed because if you can get it right, and if you can make that big high grade discovery, you can survive through all parts of the cycle.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Some great concluding thoughts there. Alex, I think if you're okay, I think we'll wrap up. We did say we'd try and conclude within around 50 minutes, which we've just passed that. So if we didn't get to your questions, apologies, but feel free to contact the information line that Alex mentioned earlier, or visit the website, or simply contact the Chalice office or us here at Reed Corporate. Thank you to everyone. Thanks very much to Alex and Chris in Perth, and to Mark and Tim in Victoria for joining us this morning and making themselves available for this session. Congratulations, everyone, on the initiative, and good luck with Falcon Metals. Looks like a great story to watch moving forward. And to everyone who's tuned in this morning, thank you for your time. We do appreciate it, and we look forward to keeping you informed on progress moving forward. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.